Hi YouTubers, it's Smoke Nancy again for the first for today. So this is going to be part 39 of my series of how to smoke a cigar. Okay, part 39. Now we'll be covering cutting a cigar. So in the next several parts we will be discussing cutting a cigar, cigar cutters, pros and cons, all that kind of stuff. Now, what is cutting a cigar? Now, when you cut a cigar, do you just take a knife and cut it in half? Do you whatever? So, cutting a cigar basically means cigars are basically three things: wrapper, binder, and filler. You have the wrapper on top of the cigar. You have the binder, which holds the cigar together, and you have the filler, which is the inside of the cigar. All that's tobacco. Then you have the foot of the cigar, which is when you light with your lighter, whether it's a lighter or a match, as in matches 860. And then you have the head of the cigar. The head of the cigar is what is sealed. So you'll look at a cigar. I don't have a cigar to show you guys, but you'll see a cigar that has a closed head. Now, the head of the cigar is what you actually cut. Now, most people know how to cut a cigar, but I'm just going to explain it for people who don't actually know. People who are noobs. Now, what do you use to cut a cigar? Do you use a knife? Do you use a switchblade? Whatever, so I'm just being silly. Actually, switchblades are illegal, so I'm just being silly. Now, what you use to cut a cigar typically is a cigar cutter. This right here, I've shown it before, I'll show it again, is a cigar cutter. This is an actual, real cigar cutter that's used to cut cigars. You can use your teeth to cut a cigar, or to bite off the end. Really, you want to avoid that, because unfortunately when you use your teeth to bite off the end of a cigar, more often than not you're going to get tobacco in your mouth, you're going to swallow tobacco, which is really nasty and not good for you. It's not going to make an even cut. I mean, if you absolutely have to, you're dealing with like a really big ring gauge cigar, a really big fat cigar, you can use your teeth, but it's not recommended, especially for premium cigars. Excuse me. You can also use a knife. You can use a knife to cut a cigar, or like a cigar, not a cigar, but you can use like a box cutter, that kind of stuff. But a knife is really not recommended. Unless you're dealing with a very big ring gauge cigar, say above 65 or 70 ring gauge, where a cigar cutter is not going to work, you really want to have a cigar cutter to cut your cigars. And by cut, what you're doing is, excuse me, the head of the cigar usually has a little piece of tobacco that is either glued or packed into place. Meaning, what they do when they make the cigar is, it looks like the foot, which means it's kind of hard to explain without actually showing you guys a cigar. But I'm kind of too lazy to get a cigar in my humidor. But the point is, when a cigar is made, when it's rolled in the factory, what I'm trying to say is, both ends are open. So the end of the cigar is, both ends are open. And basically what they do in the factory, where they're being made wherever, is they basically glue a little piece of tobacco onto the cigar to just make it look pretty. A lot of people don't realize, but a huge part of making cigars is just so they look pretty. You don't really need absolutely like a wrapper on a cigar. It's just to make it look pretty, to make it look cool, to make it look flashy. Because if you were to not put a wrapper on a cigar, it would probably smoke okay. It probably would smoke fine. I've smoked cigars without the wrapper on them, but they look really odd. They look like blunts, really. So, tobacco blunt, whatever. So, the whole point of putting a band on a cigar band, and putting a little piece of tobacco on the end to cover the head is basically to make the cigar look flashy and pretty. You don't absolutely need that. So, what you're doing is, you're basically taking your cigar cutter right here. You can have guillotine cutters, you can have cutters like this, you can have any kind of cutters that are actual cigar cutters. Excuse me. And you can just snip off the end of the cigar. That's all you're doing. So all you're really doing is you're cutting off probably, let's see, I'm bad at math, probably about, you know, an eighth of an inch, maybe, I don't know, 3/4 of a tiny, tiny bit of the cigar. You're basically snipping it off. You're basically taking the cutter and snipping it off. That's all you're doing. You're just creating an area so you can suck through or draw through the cigar. A lot of people will take off a huge amount of the cigar, like a big chunk of it, and that's not good because that will make the wrapper unravel. So all you're doing is just snipping off the little glued or pecked in piece of tobacco. So that's what cutting a cigar is. In the next videos, we're going to discuss cigar cutters, we're going to discuss cheap cigar cutters, expensive cigar cutters, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, comment, for a person you want to, and bye.